He took his son out for a quiet dinner, but when he noticed a mother struggling silently across the table, one small act of kindness brought two strangers together in a way neither of them expected. Stay until the end. This story might warm your heart more than you're ready for. Don't forget to subscribe to Black Inside 2.0 for more emotional life stories. A quiet evening that didn't feel quiet. The late afternoon sun filtered gently through the windows of Willowbrook Diner, painting warm lines across the tables and booths. It was one of those family spots where the air always smelled faintly of fresh bread and cinnamon, and where conversation hummed gently in the background like a steady river. Ethan Walker had chosen it for a reason. As a single father raising his 3-year-old son, Liam, he was always searching for predictable places where routines could form, where his son could enjoy comfort without surprises. Tonight was meant to be simple, almost boring, exactly what Ethan hoped for after a long week. But from the moment he stepped inside, he sensed something different, something warm yet heavy lingering in the air. And that feeling had a source. At a table near the window sat a woman with neat braids tied behind her shoulders. Her name, though Ethan didn't know it yet, was Maya Daniels. She sat with her daughter, a bright-eyed 4-year-old named Zoe. The little girl swung her legs under the table, humming a soft tune, unaware of her mother's growing worry. Because in front of Maya was a small pile of coins. She rolled them quietly between her fingers, eyebrows pressed together as she tried to calculate something. Ethan didn't know her story, but her face carried a weight he recognized, tiredness mixed with determination. A look he'd carried himself many evenings while trying to balance bills, work schedules, and a growing child who depended on him for everything. He didn't mean to stare, but compassion often has its own gravity. Maya didn't look up, not yet, but the evening was already shifting. Their paths, two strangers, were quietly aligning. Single fathers notice different things. Liam tugged at Ethan's sleeve the way toddlers do when the world suddenly feels too big. "Daddy, apple juice," Ethan smiled softly. "You got it, buddy." As he reached for the menu, Liam pointed across the diner at little Zoe, who now tapped the wooden chair with playful curiosity. "Her shoes sparkly," Liam announced proudly, as though he had discovered a hidden treasure. Ethan chuckled. "They sure are." The children exchanged a few shy looks, innocent and unbothered by the invisible walls adults often build. But Ethan's attention drifted back to the mother, her fingers brushing over the coins again, her eyes lowering each time the waitress walked by. He'd never been the type to intrude, and after the emotional exhaustion of the past few years, balancing custody, moving homes, building a new life, he had grown cautious about engaging with strangers. Yet something about her posture, the quiet tension she tried to hide from her daughter, tugged at the softest part of him. He knew dignity when he saw it. He also knew struggle, and compassion, once awakened, rarely settles back down. Maya's silent calculations. Across the room, Maya inhaled slowly. She wasn't ashamed of counting coins. She had worked too hard for too long to let pride get in the way of feeding her child. But today had brought a series of small setbacks. Late shift, unexpected bills, a cancelled babysitter, and overtime she didn't receive. Her paycheck wouldn't clear until tomorrow morning, and she had misjudged the cost of the meal Zoe had begged for all week. She wasn't broke, not normally, but today she was stretched thin. Zoe looked up at her with wide, trusting eyes. "Mommy, can we get the rolls?" "The soft ones." Maya forced a smile. "Let me check, sweetheart." She didn't want Zoe to see the stress. Her daughter deserved more than that. So Maya pushed the coins again, hoping they would magically multiply. They didn't. She looked down, heart sinking, but not broken. Never broken. Behind her worry lived a woman who had survived far more than a difficult dinner. Still, she wished things could be easier. Just for one night, a moment of decision. The waitress arrived at Maya's table, notepad in hand, ready to order. Maya opened her mouth, but the words didn't come out. Not yet. At another table, Ethan watched the moment unfold. The hesitation, the discomfort, the quiet panic she tried to tuck away beneath a polite smile. He had seen that expression once in the mirror, on the day he realized he had emptied his bank account on diapers, formula, and emergency daycare fees. He felt something shift inside him, an urge, gentle but firm. Before he could second-guess himself, he lifted his hand toward the waitress. "Hi, excuse me," he said softly. "Can you add their order to my bill, please?" The waitress blinked. "Theirs? Are you sure?" Maya finally looked up, startled. Ethan offered her a warm, steady smile. Not pity, not sympathy, just simple kindness. "Yes," he said, I'm sure. The look that started everything. Maya's eyes widened, her breath caught mid-sentence. She hastily shook her head. Oh, no, you don't have to do that. Really, we're fine. Ethan spoke gently. I know you probably don't want help. I understand, but I also know what it's like to have a tough day, and I'd like to make yours a little easier. If that's okay? Maya hesitated. Pride whispered one thing, Brace whispered another, and something about his expression, the sincerity, the lack of judgment, the quiet strength, made her exhale slowly. Made her heart soften, just a little. Thank you, she finally said, voice barely above a whisper. That's very kind. The waitress nodded and walked off with the order. Zoe grinned. Mommy, the nice man helped us. Maya felt her cheeks warm. Yes, he did. But when she looked back at Ethan again, something else passed between them, something gentle. Something unexpected, a spark neither of them had planned for. Dinner becomes something more. As their meals arrived, Zoe kept glancing toward Liam, who returned every look with the animated curiosity only toddlers possessed. Ethan tried to focus on feeding his son, but his gaze kept drifting back to Maya, the way she tucked her daughter's napkin neatly, the way she ran her hand along Zoe's hair, the way her eyes softened whenever her daughter laughed. She was strong, and she was tender, a combination he knew all too well in his own life. He noticed small details. Her tiredness wasn't defeat, it was resilience. Her quietness wasn't caution, it was depth. Her presence wasn't heavy, it was grounding. And maybe for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt something warm flicker inside him. Hope, the unfamiliar kind. Maya felt something too. She watched the young father calmly encourage his son to eat, gently wipe crumbs from his small fingers and smile with a warmth that filled the space around him. She admired the patience he carried, soft but unwavering, and she found herself wondering, briefly, what sort of person he must be to offer help to strangers without expecting anything in return. It had been a long time since she had wondered about anyone in that way. Connection begins with small words. When both children grew restless, Zoe shyly approached Liam's table. Hi, she said softly. I like your shoes. Liam beamed. I like your sparkles. Their tiny exchange made both parents laugh, softly, unexpectedly. It broke the invisible barrier between them. Maya stood and approached Ethan's table slowly, her hands folded nervously. I just wanted to thank you, properly, she said. You didn't have to do that. Ethan shook his head. I'm glad I could, really. After a pause, he added, would you like to sit with us? The kids seemed to be getting along. Maya looked at Zoe, who nodded eagerly, then smiled. I'd like that. And just like that, 2 separate evenings became one. A table for 4. The conversation began awkwardly, as first conversations often do. They talked about jobs. Ethan worked in IT support. Maya was a nursing assistant. They talked about their kids, playful, stubborn, unpredictable, lovable. They talked about parenthood, its exhaustion and its beauty. Slowly, their voices softened. Their laughter grew, and the distance between them grew smaller. Ethan found himself captivated by the way Maya listened, with patience, with genuine interest, with eyes that seemed to understand without needing explanation. Maya found herself eased by Ethan's calm, steady presence, the warmth in his tone, the gentle care he gave to every word. The children eventually began sharing crayons and giggling over scribbled drawings, and somewhere in the middle of it all, the room seemed to fade away. It was just them, 2 parents who had been strangers an hour earlier, yet now felt strangely connected through kindness, shared experiences, and something warmer budding between them. When hearts speak without trying. As dessert arrived, Zoe leaned into Maya's side, growing sleepy. Liam rubbed his eyes too. Ethan chuckled softly. I think bedtime is calling. Maya nodded. For both of us. There was a peaceful silence, a comfortable one. Finally, Ethan spoke. I'm really glad we talked. You have a calming presence. It's refreshing. Maya's heart fluttered unexpectedly. I could say the same about you. Another pause, slight, charged, hopeful. Ethan swallowed, then asked carefully, would it be okay if we kept in touch? Maya looked down for a moment, thinking, not out of fear, but out of sincerity. She had built tall walls around her heart after many disappointments. But this felt different, simplistic, gentle, honest. She looked up and nodded. Yes, I'd like that. Ethan smiled, the kind of smile that reaches the eyes. And for the first time in a long time, Maya felt something warm open inside her chest. Possibility. New beginnings are sometimes quiet. Outside the diner, the evening air settled around them softly. Ethan helped Liam into his booster seat while Maya secured Zoe into her car seat. When they turned back toward each other, their eyes held a moment longer than before. "Drive safe," Ethan said, voice low and genuine. "You too," Maya replied. He handed her a small piece of paper. "Here's my number. No pressure, only if you want to talk, or if the kids want a playdate." Maya smiled warmly. "I'll text you," and she meant it. As Ethan drove away, he kept glancing at his phone on the dashboard, hoping, maybe too soon, for the screen to light up. Maya sat in her car for a moment after buckling in, staring at the small paper with his handwriting. She felt something she hadn't felt in a long while. Someone saw her, not with pity, not with expectations, but with genuine kindness. Zoe's sleepy voice drifted from the backseat. "Mommy, he was nice." Maya smiled softly. Yes, he was, and as she pulled out of the parking lot, her phone buzzed lightly. A message, from Ethan. "It was really nice meeting you and Zoe tonight." Maya stared at the notification, warmth blooming inside her, and for the first time in months, maybe years, she allowed herself to hope. Kindness can bloom into something more. Over the following weeks, their small messages grew into longer conversations. Conversations turned into laughter, laughter turned into shared stories turned into comfort, and meetings at playgrounds, and late evening calls after the kids were asleep. And slowly, without rushing, something deeper began to unfold between them. Not forced, not hurried, not dramatic, just real, true, gentle. Kindness had opened the door. Connection had stepped inside, and romance, it was budding quietly, patiently, like a flower growing in soft morning light. A love story rooted in compassion. Months later, as spring warmed the air, Ethan and Maya found themselves standing together in the same diner where everything had begun. Zoe and Liam shared a plate of fries, giggling over a secret only toddlers could understand. Ethan leaned closer to Maya and whispered, "I'm glad I helped that night, but I think the truth is, you helped me a lot more." Maya looked at him with soft, grateful eyes. "Maybe we helped each other." Their hands brushed, and this time, they didn't pull away. Outside the window, the world looked ordinary. But at their table, something extraordinary had quietly taken root. A love story born from compassion. A connection born from understanding. A future built from one simple, human act of kindness. And neither of them would ever forget the night that changed everything.